All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everyone's doing well, and hopefully you guys had a pretty good Memorial Day weekend. So here we are. We are first day right out beyond the Memorial Day weekend um, holiday, and it's usually this time where we might begin to see a shift in the overall market. We will certainly keep an eye on that. There is such thing as a summer sell off or summer slowdown or whatever you want to call it. Whether that remains this year in 2023, that's kind of like the big $1 million question. So we'll be sure to keep an eye on that. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about um, some of the most interesting, relevant, fancy serial number sales for the last week. However, it's been busy. I have about 20 notes we're going to discuss today when we're just going to kind of, blow through them, bing, 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 just all the way across. But yeah, we have about 24 to 48 hours worth of sales data. Today is the 30th. So it looks like it's about 3 days. I'm not going to lie to you because it says right there on this first note. So it's busy. It's extraordinarily just fascinates me just how busy this segment of the hobby is. And you guys definitely need to know what's selling and what you need to look out for and what denomination of note you need to be pursuing at this time. This is like easy free tendies. This is like easy money to be made here. Just go to the bank, pick up your denomination of choice, whether that's bank straps. Bank strap has 100 notes in it of any denomination you like. I love ones and twos because you make more money if you find something there. Whereas finding, say, a much higher denomination note, like for example the 20, you might not be able to realize the full potential of what you can make on that. So, could we see a little slowdown in the market with this? It's highly possible. I don't know, but based off of what I'm seeing and all of the attention that's being paid to the fancy serial number collecting, hunting community, I kind of doubt that. So again, we'll see. I'll keep you guys aware, and we'll notify you if there's any change, anything drastic or sudden. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. And any of these notes you could find even going up into the newest dates. Like the newest dates will feature a 2017 A series date on there. And I know that sounds crazy because that's like 6 years ago. In hindsight, it feels a lot older than that. But as long as they have the same treasury and secretary on there or whatever, they're going to continue on with the same series until that changeover occurs. So it could be 4 years, 6 years, somewhere around there. So the first one that we're going to talk about here is the 2017 A20. All right, pretty high denomination kicking things off here. This is considered a low serial number. It features a 3-digit serial number, 1, 7, and 6. Too bad there isn't an extra 7 in there to make it the 1776. Of course, we all know the prominence of that particular date. We actually have another anniversary coming up here in about 2 years. So that's kind of cool and a little bit crazy because in 1976, it was very popular and it was kind of a big deal at that time. So. Serial number 176 on this 20 ended up selling for $21 with 24 bits. Now, what I'm not going to do in this particular video is to add in shipping. All right. The shipping should be part of the cost because that's how much you pay ultimately to receive the note if you're a buyer. But this note right here, judging from the looks of it, it's got some circulation wear. It's got a distinct centerfold. 3-digit, anything, I would say in today's preferences to collectors, people who are loosely collecting these, they'll want to see at least 3 leading zeros. Me personally, I'm a fancy serial number purist, so I want to see 5 leading zeros. But again, anything between 3 and 5 leading zeros is what's considered a low. If you compare it up to a star note, that makes it even all the more better. Those notes are going to be more coveted in the market compared to one that does not have a star note on there. So not too bad, $61. Keeping in mind that that is the same or similar amount of money that you would expect for the same serial number on a 1, 2, or 5. So again, the lower the denomination, the more money you're going to make. So if you're trying to score some of these at the bank, and all they say, oh, all I have is 20s. I mean, you could certainly say, yeah, I'll try it, but you're gonna have to spend a lot more money to obtain these. Now, granted, you could always return back whatever you don't use, but yeah, you could search through a whole lot more notes if you bought 1s and 2s and 5s than you would 10s, 20s, and up. So that's the first note there. The second one that we have here, one of my favorites for today. This is a 2017 $1 bill. So it's got 03 repeated over. They call this a super repeater. And this note is actually in really nice shape. It looks, to my eyes, to maybe have a centerfold right there. I could see it at the bottom. But this note did not circulate much, and it's pretty wild. Again, super repeaters are one of the higher echelon levels of fancy serial numbers, and this one ended up selling for $176 with 32 bids. So we had the first note that sold on the 27th, and then we have the second note here that sold on the 28th. So there you go. There's your 48 hours. Very beautiful note. Again, that's what your super repeater looks like. Now, here's another example of a super repeater on a much more well-worn note. So this is 3 7s repeated over 4 times. Now, a super repeater is any combination of 2 numbers that's repeated over and over again until it's all done. This time on a 2009 $1 bill. As you can tell, the note exhibits quite a bit of circulation wear, quite wrinkly paper. 3-7 repeated over, even on a pretty well-worn example like this, is a visually stunning type of collectible. And because of that, it ended up selling for a few cents shy of $50 with 24 bids. Now, the difference between a note in this grade range to the one that we had already seen, if it was the same serial number, same series date, you're talking about a 2x difference. So an uncirculated example tend to sell in that $100 to $150 range. Again, it really depends on the 2 numbers. If you had, say, 7-8 or 1-2 or 1-0 or some of the more popular 2-digit numbers, then they could go a lot more wilder. And true binaries would light up the market, but by a huge margin. All right, the next one that we have here, one of my favorites, and believe it or not, these come up more frequently than you realize. This is a 7 of a kind 5s on this $1 bill you see here. So there is what I call an interrupter, where there's a number right somewhere in the middle that interrupts the 7 of a kind from being 7 in a row. 7 in a row typically commands a little bit more money in the marketplace than one that's just 7 of a kind. But me personally, I like them both. I think they're on the same wavelength as far as desirability is concerned. And again, it's all about some of those popular numbers like 1s, 7s, 8s. Those are kind of like the more desirable, more lucky by culture standards, like Chinese folks find the number 8 to be incredibly lucky. Therefore, they're going to pay a lot more to even obtain U.S. currency with a pattern of 8s on there. And believe me, folks, they pay a lot of money. Probably some of the most irrational type of bidding activity that I've seen in the last 25 years, and since the beginning of eBay. So there you go. Not the perfect note by any means, but this one ended up selling for, wow, quite a bit of money. $83, 18 bids. So it was organically bid up to what I consider to be moon money for a note of that circulation. The next one that we have here, now in case you guys are wondering, Wow, this one sold for a lot more money, right? I mean, you guys are probably kind of floored right now by what we're seeing. But this is a 6 in a row eights. Now, we talked about the most highly coveted serial numbers or numbers on an individual basis. Eights, and then you have a seven, and then you have a zero. Three very desirable numbers right there. But the eights is where it's at. And this is, by the way, a $1 bill. But check out the sale, $104.50. Beat out the previous note, which was a seven of a kind. And not exactly the most prettiest of looking of notes. It's a 2017A, and yeah, another banger. Someone crumpled this puppy up and put it in her pocket, didn't think anything of it until they got home, whipped it out, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's pretty neat. Now, it used to be 10 years ago, back in the infancy of fancy serial number collecting, that six of a kind and six in a row notes didn't command that kind of money. You know, you'd be lucky you get $10 for it because it was like, the consolation prize. It's like you were almost there, but not quite. But in any event, today is a different day in the hobby. And again, nobody's besmirching solid eights. Nobody's besmirching 7 in a row eights or 6 in a row eights. Even 5 in a row eights are all pretty nice, and surprisingly, they will shock you a little bit if you did decide to sell them. Expect to earn a little bit more money for them than what is the norm. The next one that we have here, again, another strong showing on this $1 bill. It's a 2017 with 6 in a row eights again. The note is a little bit more circulated compared to the previous example, as you can see. Not the best pictures either, but you can see that the note looks like it's been through the paces. And your other two numbers are 4 and 1. All right, so again, not as great compared to the 0 and 7 on the other note. And this one's a little bit more beat up. And as a result, this one sold for $53.52 with 21 strong bids on that one. Okay, so this is like one of the easier to find fancy serial number strings, and that's what they call a repeater. So you have 4 digits, the first 4 digits of a serial number repeat over again to finish out the second half of the serial number. So you have 3901, 3901. There you go. It's real simple. There are more matches for repeaters and binaries out there in a standard 9.6 or 96 million note run for a block. So you're going to have a lot better of opportunity to find these types of fancies because they just show up more frequently in that run. So in any event, $20.06 with 9 bids. Okay, just as kind of like an aside, if this was on a $20 bill, you wouldn't even be able to make $20 off of it the same way that it's on a $1 bill. Again, the higher denomination skews the overall value of these lower level fancy serial numbers than some of the higher level ones that we've seen so far. We have another desirable here. We have a 6 in a row sevens to lead things off. And it's always good when you have all of one number looped together. All right. If there's an interrupter in there, let's say if it's like 777-40777, it looks visually appealing, but it's not going to be as desirable. And you're probably going to see a reflection in the overall value of such notes. So this one here, again, another desirable number. Sevens are more lucky to folks here in the U.S. Than anywhere else in the world. $22.50 was the sale price with 10 bids on that one. Next one that we have here. Now, this is a true blue 7 of a kind. This time we got 3s and then 1 6. 3s are not one of the top in-demand numbers by themselves, but still, you can't argue with a gem like this. This one is also a nice, crisp, uncirculated example. It looks like it came out of a BEP strap. All right, so very, very well done. This one sold for $92.88 with 29 bids. Again, another strong showing for this note. It ended up selling sometime like 7 p.m., 7:14 in the evening on May 28th. That's Pacific Standard Time. So you got to position the sale of the note to where everybody's going to be available to bid on it. Because again, most of our collectors are here stateside. That if maybe this note sold an hour before this one ended, like at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, or maybe even 5 o'clock, you might see more bidding activity because you have folks on the East Coast that'll bid on this as opposed to getting ready for bed. So again, another very strong sale here on this one. Well, here you go. Well, we got a $20 bill. We have 7 of a kind twos on this one. It's also affectionately referred to as a binary anyways, because you only have 2 digits in the serial number. But there you go. Made no effort whatsoever to kind of flatten the note out. This actually makes the note look a lot worse than it actually does. And again, it's all about presentation. When it comes to photographing this, and it, in certain occasions it can make a difference in how successful your sale is going to be. So please do keep that in mind. Don't take it personally. Just do the best that you can in getting the note kind of like show ready for a sale. But overall, larger denomination, $71 was the sale price, 5 bids on this one. Not too bad, but it could be a lot better, I suppose. We've seen a few of these sell in that $75 to $100 range, and it's a high denom, so that kind of plays against the profitability factor on that. And we have another binary, this time 2s and 5s. And what I like most about this is you have all of one number grouped together. So you have a 6 in a row of 2s and then the 2 5s, as opposed to being all jumbled up. New seller alert right here. Weather the Tides with a 0 feedback, $23.50 was the sale price with 17 bids. And again, well done. With the overall presentation, the note is, for the most part, crispy. It does have a few waves and a little bit of circulation wear in certain areas of note. Again, because you're able to take great pictures, you could see these things. So it's I would say it's probably more AU in condition. I don't see any folds, which is a huge plus or benefit to this one. But there you go, $23.50 for a binary, which is solid. And our only lone birthday serial number makes an appearance here, and it's the serial number is 0309-1959. That is the kind of like the standard Western way of doing a date, where you have 2 digits for the month, 2 digits for the day, and then 4 digits for the year. That's kind of like how it's symbolically read in our part of the world, whereas overseas, it's done in backwards and all that stuff. Sometimes they'll start out with the actual year, but the year is still 4 digits. So a pretty nice note here. This one kind of struck a little bit of a chord for me. It's a $10 bill, much higher denom for this. And it sold for $40, which normally birthday notes are more of a novelty than it is more of kind of like the hardcore collector type note. Because you got to have someone that was born on the exact day to want to have this. And generally, because of that, we see notes like this sell for between $8 to $12. That's kind of like the going rate for these. And this is the type of note that ideally you want to find on a dollar bill. All right, because outside of that, again, this is more of an anomaly right here. This high sale price of $40. You're just going to make a lot more money and have a little bit more better control over the profit with a $1 bill or even a 2. So, very interesting one right there. Well, unfortunately, this was on a $100 bill. Flipper binary bookend note with zeros and nines. Flipper in a way that if you flipped it over, in theory, it's supposed to read the same way flipped upside down than it does right side up. But in this particular case, I mean, sure, you could call it a flipper if you wanted to. It's just going to read 66 or 666 00066. It's not the same as the serial number if it was read right side up, which typically doesn't make it a flipper. And it's got bookend double nines, which sure, you could fake your way through that if you wanted to. What they did was they pumped the listing title with a bunch of like hot keywords for fancy serial numbers, and it drew some attention here. But check that out. A very high denomination, even though you have a really nice binary serial number, and it only managed to sell for $116.49. Weather the Tides probably made no money on this note. I'm just going to go out and say that because you have to pay eBay 13% right off the rip, which effectively means that this person probably made about $3 profit, which is not a whole lot. If this note was on a dollar bill, I guarantee you it'd probably sell for between 20 and $30, and then you're going to realize a lot more profit. Now, the question in all of this is like, well, what are you saying? Should I spend it? I mean, that's really completely up to you. I mean, you have again, a very common type of fancy serial number on a high denomination note. And, if you're not like independently wealthy where you can afford to save a $100 bill like this because it just looks neat, it might be too much money to tie up. Especially for a lot more of my patrons who do this casually, maybe don't particularly have a high amount of income and they want to do this as kind of like a side hustle. There's not a whole lot to do here to make this note worth more money because of its ridiculously high denomination on there. So keep that in mind as you're searching through notes. You may come across something like this. Is the juice worth the squeeze to where you want to keep the note? It's $100. The next one that we have here, now this is cool. It's a $2 bill, 2013 series, and it's a nice, crisp, uncirculated example showing ones and fives in the serial number. And this one ended up selling for $46.66 with 12 bids. A very, very strong amount of cash for this one. Again, we're talking about like a lower end fancy. One of the more common ones because there's just more of them in a 96 million run of notes. But still, again, I mean that's fantastic, and glad it's on a $1 or a $2 bill to make it worth the while. Another 7 in a row right here. This time we got threes, and it's a nice gem specimen. Note came, and this Ronald J.H. guy searches through a lot of BEP straps. Lots of them, like tens of thousands of dollars a month. And that's how he is able to find a lot of these crisp uncirculated notes, is that he goes through the higher denom or the higher end stuff. And that's just a matter of going to the bank and asking for it, at this point. And there's no secret key, secret handshake, or anything like that you could do to obtain these. Just go into a bank and say, hey, you have one of these. And it always helps to maybe take a picture of one that you see on eBay. A full strap with the BEP stamp on there. But this is a really good sale. $188.50, 46 total bids. Very active listing here, and particularly well done, might I add. Here's what they call a true binary because it's ones and zeros, but it's a 7 of a kind. There's 7 ones on here. And again, another huge sale. $152.50 with 29 bids. Again, I cannot say any more good things about these notes. True binaries, which are ones and zeros. are very expensive, especially in high grades. See, with fancy serial numbers, grade still matters. Okay, it's what takes a note that you would sell for $50 and turns it into $100. So keep that in mind. But still, I wouldn't throw back any note that has a fancy on it, regardless of grade. All right, we got a best offer here. We just have a few more left. We have another true binary, this time on a ragtag looking $1 bill. As you can see, that's what it looks like. Not the most gorgeous looking note here, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You still have zeros and ones. Very attractive. We have a best offer accepted here in the amount of $25. So that was how much it was sold for. Again, that's kind of a fair rate considering its condition. If it was CU, it probably would be $100 plus no. Again, condition still does matter to an extent. A few more here, ladies and gentlemen. We have a really nice one, sold for $80 on this 2013 $1 bill. Check that out. You have 7 of a kind ones with a star. Hey, we finally got a star note, fancy serial number, and as you would expect, even in this condition, which has a hard centerfold and some paperwave on there, this thing probably was sitting in a wallet at one point. $80 is a fair rate for that. And again, these notes exist unconsciously in your wallets and your pocketbooks. So if you're not looking for these, you're just going to be throwing away the big easy tendies. And then finally, we're going to end it off on a binary, 5 of a kind 7s with a couple 1s splashed in there. This is kind of like a suitable minor kind of sale here. The note's pretty well worn and circulated, but $15 right here for this one is where it's sold at. So pretty nice little array of notes just from the last, I would say, 48 to 72 hours worth of data on eBay. As you can see, the market is robust. So go out there and look for some of these and see if you could cash in, ladies and gentlemen, on some of these notes that generally 99.9% of the general public overlook. They don't look at these. So that's the crazy part of it. Whereas there's a higher margin of people looking through coins than they are paper money. I think people are just kind of numb to the fact that everybody can do digital payments and Venmos and PayPals and, Cash Apps and all that stuff, that they don't want to touch physical money. And it's like they have their own reason, but that's okay. That leaves just a lot more meat on the bone for folks like us to come in and look for these. So that's going to go ahead and do it. Thank you guys again for tuning in on this video. Hopefully you guys have a good time of it, of searching out for some of these things. I mean, they are quite expensive if you find the right ones, and they're out there. Even bank employees don't even pay attention to these, but they're looking for silver, right? I met a bank teller who's probably just barely 20 years old, and she's like, yeah, I'm looking for the silver. Sometimes we get in, I scored myself X amount of pieces of these $50 silvers, and I'm like, wow, I'm shocked. But the ladies love the precious metals, all right? And then they end up overlooking stuff like this, and it's like, wow, I could buy 1 gram of gold with this $1 bill that I just sold for $100. And that's a pretty damn good feeling. So that's it. I'm going to take off from here, guys. You guys have a wonderful week. I'll see you guys on the next coin or currency video. Keep on collecting, my friends. So long.